Hello and welcome to another R4 video for some topics related to R. Today's topic is something that I've been working on over the last couple of months and wanted to present, and the time is about right because it's about continuous integration, and many of us have been using Travis, which was popular, free, had generous allocations, but as it's now commercial and under change management, it's likely going away. And that is actually a fairly common theme with commercial services. So I like to avoid vendor lock-in if I can. And here I have a quick demo of what I'm currently using, and which is in fact portable and avoids vendor lock-in. So we're presenting a simple script that I use across most of my repos, if not all. And it works at Travis if you still have credits. It works at GitHub Actions. It works at Azure DevOps pipelines. And very importantly, it also works locally in Docker if you need to debug, because we've all had issues with continuous integration, and if you can dive locally into the system, it's much easier to follow up. I haven't used it at GitLab or some other providers. I would expect it to work there. Basically, this approach relies on a single simple shell script, and the first step is to fetch the script, and then we're doing 3 steps: bootstrap the system, fetch the dependencies of the package, and build and test the package, which gets translated into 4 commands: fetching the script, bootstrapping, installing dependencies or all packages, we'll get to that, and then run the test. And that's really all that there is. And the existing YAML files for the different services are in repos and can be studied. So the source for this itself is on GitHub in a repo called RCI, and I wrote a little bit of documentation in a nicer website, which you find at this link, basically RCI under my name. All this goes back to Travis, and we all owe Craig Citro some thanks for starting this many years ago. I contributed quite a bit to this at the beginning and continued using it all those years because I like its simplicity. This is an updated version now, which relies on BSPM, and today I don't really have time to get into BSPM and why you should use it along with PPAs, but I have prior blog posts that detail that. The demo I'm going to show now in Docker complements the existing setup, which uses Travis, or use Travis because I don't have credits anymore, but still uses Travis with a couple of other repos and other orgs where I have credits, as well as GitHub and Azure. And we're going to now look into Docker, and just to keep it simple, I'm just going to copy and paste some commands here so that I don't make any stupid errors typing. This just uses my standard Docker RBSPM Docker container that we've used before. See my blog for a couple of other videos and intro talks about it. The first step really is to just download rsh, which the YAML files typically do with curl, because those environments all have curl installed. Here in this container it's wget, and we make it executable. Then the first step, and that takes, in this setup, in this particular container that already has a few things installed, maybe 20 seconds. You can do the same starting from a bare bones Ubuntu container, and then it maybe takes a minute. It's really quite bearable, and that's just startup time that the CI services usually provide at the very beginning. Some of the stuff that's flying by here is really just internal things so that we can set up repos and GPG keys to get downloads. At the end of the run, it echoes to the screen a sysinfo so that we can always quickly check in our continuous integration which R version is running, on what OS, and what packages are installed. And here it's really nothing apart from the BSPM package that we use to get dependencies. So the main step for RCI is to install dependencies, and just the dependencies. For the particular package that I'm using here, that's only a single package, and because this uses BSPM, it will download the package as a binary when available, or from source when it's sourced. In this particular case, it's just source, and we can then check, because we only installed the dependencies and not the suggest. In standard AR text use, we have to check, set this environment variable to false, so that the tests will not complain about the fact that some packages are missing, what it's saying here. So there's, 7 more packages that would need to be installed to run exhaustive tests over depends and suggests. But in this case, it's only that. We get a single node, which was... oh yeah, that's right, because those packages are no longer there. And now, because we're here and have everything set up, why don't we show that? So if you want to run more exhaustive tests and have more patience to run it all, I switch between repos. Sometimes I install all dependencies, sometimes just suggest. This is a nice showcase for BSPM, because we've seen there were 7 suggested packages, and as it goes with dependencies, that quickly escalates and we have to install some 38 packages. But here they're all coming from the Michael Rutter PPA pre-built as binaries. That's perfect. Dependencies get resolved. Each package brings the packages it needs underlying it. Should they rely other system resources, those also get installed. So I'm really a big fan of that approach. And all in all, this takes about a minute or so. So it's really quite bearable. So I think for this package in my actual Travis scripts, I run it this way because a minute we can usually afford. And now we can run the checks again and set the check force variable to true. Run the whole thing, don't get a note, and the whole thing just rattles through because all the packages are there in just about no time. And that's really convenient CI use at home in a Docker container. So that's just what we used. The CI that we use in other places can run the exact same way on our local machine for testing the CI. Very powerful. This is the repo of the package that I used for the demonstration. And you can then see that there are GitHub actions that run against it, and you can look at the underlying CI file. For GitHub, it's this, and what I just said, bootstrap, install, test, the 3 key steps. Same with Azure pipelines, if you want to try that. It's another pretty decent service, and the YAML file, once you've understood the one, is very similar. There's sort of small differences, but because the examples are set up, you can really just do it by copy and pasting. And when I still had credits, it ran the same way at Travis, but it doesn't anymore. This particular one also runs with Mac OS, but I'm not going to get into that now. That's really the gist of the demonstration that we had here, and the summary for this really is small and simple shell script, runs an unhasane Ubuntu environment, can take advantage of the BSPM via the PPAs. That's currently an opt-in that gets turned on in my YAML files. 3 simple steps: bootstrap, when A is missing, typo, dependencies, and test. There's more options. As we've seen, install deps can be complemented with install all. There's additional commands to install directly via apt other system packages should you need them. It's all Linux, so it's quite flexible. Run.sh is really just a shell script you can read and alter. File issues at the repo, and that's all that there is. And that's my usual last page with reference to slides, my webpage, mail address, GitHub, and Twitter. That's all. Thanks for listening.